Welcome to my YouTube channel, Surowicz Watercolor. At any time during this video, you can click on the link in the lower right hand corner to subscribe to my channel. If you want to learn more about my videos or my online instruction, simply click on one of the links that appears at the end of the video. Hi, this is Rick. I'm in my studio, and today I'm going to be working on a rural farm scene. I like to do these. I've done a number of these for my channel. And I'm going to be working with a composition that has about 1/3 land to 2/3 sky. It's going to be a very simple sky, but I want to create the suggestion of this farm setting in this big open space. And for today, for the demonstration, I'm going to be using this view so you can see my palette, the reference, and my painting. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a little cobalt blue. And I'm going to add a little cerulean to that. I just want a very simple blue sky. But I don't want it to be too blue, so I'm going to add just a little bit of raw sienna to my blue, just to kind of tone that down a little. And I'm going to go ahead and put this wash on. So I'm working at about a 20-degree angle. I always work at an angle. Rarely do I work flat. I want gravity to move my paint in a direction that I know it's going to go. And I'm just applying this with a 1-inch flat brush. So it's very, it's very light. It appears, I'm sure, on the camera, just a very subtle change, which is really all I want. So I'm going to bring this all the way down. I'm going to add just a little of this warm mixture, just the sky gets towards the horizon there, just to warm things up a little bit. And I'm going to cut around the building. I'll be putting some trees in over top of this later, but it'll be a much darker value. And I want to be able to see some of the sky through here, so I'm just painting over where the trees are going to be. A little bit between there. And bring this down. So I'm bringing this down to the horizon line. And there's a line of trees that you just see, just a little bit of the tops of, and they're trees, but we're kind of looking up at a slope, and those are just over the horizon line. You can't really see the base of them. And again, that kind of gives the feeling of space. So while this is wet, I'm going to come in and add the tops of those trees along here. I'm going to leave those so they're a soft edge and feel a little bit more in the distance. So I'm going to just get a number 4 round brush here. I'm going to mix some sap green with some pyro red, a little royal blue. So I add the red to the green to make it a more natural green. I'm actually going to take a little bit of gold, I think, for this mixture too, because the tops are hitting that, and maybe this kind of permanent green light. So the tops have some sunlight on them, but I'm gonna just start to work in some of this color. So it's still pretty wet. There's still a little bit more, a little glossier, not quite a sheen. It's a little glossier than a sheen. But I have this, this tree line that you see just the tops of. And I'm going to bring in some of this darker mixture. My light source is coming from the left on this. I'm going to put some of these darker tones to kind of show where that light source is coming from. And it's not real strong. It's not going to be play a real strong part in this painting. So there's a field here that has some softer edges. So it's not straight, a little pattern to them. So I want to make sure I leave that bottom a little irregular, so you get the feeling of those the tops of the grassy areas of this field. So that's probably enough right there. And while I've got this, I'm going to add just a little bit of a lighter tone. Well, this is still a little wet. It's actually probably a little bit past where I want it, but should still work okay. And we'll go with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to come in and start to put in kind of this field right here. That's what I'm going to do next. All right, so this is dry. Now I'm going to take my 1-inch flat brush. I'm going to use some quinacridone gold. I'm going to take some hands of yellow, some permanent green light, and I'm going to lay some of these greens. So I'm going to start with some green here. I'm not going to be trying to paint individual blades of grass or anything. I'm just going to have this kind of a simple foreground. Take a little of this. More red in that. So I add the red to the green so that it's a more natural green. Now, a little more gold. Yeah, we're going to go that way with this. So now I want to bring it up to that edge where I kind of, I drug that down, and it gives me a nice edge for that. I'm going to use actually a little raw sienna in this too. All kinds of little weeds and things in this up front, but I'm not going to get involved in that. I'm just going to keep this very simple. Have some, a little variety of color going on in here. And I'm not really gonna bring in green or any of this kind of lacy weed or anything, weeds that are growing around there. I'm gonna just kind of stay with that. And I don't want any backwashes or anything, so I want to pick up the extra moisture. And once again, I'm gonna dry this. All right, this is dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean some of this off. This is kind of a big wash that I put on, and had a lot of water in that mixture. And I want a little bit more, I need a little less water in what I'll be mixing here. So, okay. So now, I'll take my wash brush, and there's going to be some touches of some bright green in here, but it's going to be a pretty dark value overall. And we'll start with that, but now I'm going to bring in some sap green, pyro red, royal blue, some more gold, and I'm going to get pretty dark with this. And one of the things we're going to do is I want to maintain a pretty nice edge on the roof here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some rice tape as I first apply this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off that edge there. And let's see, I'm going to cut that across. Let's see how close I can get there. Pretty good. And then I'm going to take another piece. I'm just going to go ahead and put that right here. And then one more piece I'm going to put across the top. So what that's going to allow me to do is put my tree in here and not have to worry about trying to preserve that edge, because this tape is going to do that. So I'm going to start with a brighter color. Just kind of wipe that out there. Let's try that again. All right. So I'm going to add a little bit of a brighter color to start, and some gold. Throw a little of that gold in there. So I dragged my brush, on the belly. I'm dragging it on this part, the belly of the brush, and to give me that kind of a broken edge, I want to see some of that sky coming through. And I'm going to get much darker though. Bring that down. And I still need to get darker. I'm going to take this green with some of this royal blue and some of the red. A little bit more. So that's going to give me a pretty dark green. The other thing is, there's times when I might stop and dry so I can get a little more broken edge as I come over top of my darker value, but we're just going to go ahead and paint. So I'm going to get darker in here. if I want to bring in some more texture a little bit, I can. And now, let's see, I want that to be a little more. Bring this across. So we'll leave that. And now I want to dry this, and I'll take off my tape, and then I'm going to come over here. And this tree is actually in front of the barn, so that's why I didn't didn't paint there, because this is going to be in front of this barn. So I want to dry this so I don't get my fingers in that when I lift the tape. Okay, that's dry, so I'm going to take this off. So I have nice clean edges there that I can work with, and I have that dark value. I was able to put in the textures by dragging my brush that I wanted to do. All this is pretty much a solid area actually. But let's go ahead, and now we have these silos, and we have this collection of trees that kind of grow right against the farm structure, and around this, then there's some kind of vines and things growing up this. So we're just going to try and suggest some of that. I've got this tree here, and I'm gonna actually, I could have taped this edge a little bit because I'm going to let some light reflect off that. We got this tree, a smaller tree. There's just a collection of trees here. This stuff comes down all the way down. Comes in front of these, grows over top of them. Actually, this is covering the front of it a little more than what I was thinking. So I'm just going to drag my brush and there's some stuff growing behind this, trees. A little bit there. Then we have just some vines and things growing on this. Give it that indication of these growing up on that. A little bit on here. Very dark in shadow, so it's kind of hard to see on the photograph. We have some silos that are covered with this, and we have some more here. And I can come in a little more precise and put in some darker values here. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little of this darker mixture. I'm going to go with a little bit more texture in this, a little darker value. Help carry that across my composition. Not too much, but just a little bit more. That's probably enough. All right, let's see now. There's some vines growing on this barn. I'm gonna let a little more sun hit those. Got a bush or something here. So I'm not gonna go too crazy with these vines on here. Still wanna be able to see a little bit of the barn. This whole thing is kind of overgrown. Alright, so I think we'll leave that at where we're at and give this a dry one more time. Okay, now this is all dry. And I'm going to work with some darker colors here. I'm going to use some quinacridone burnt orange. I'm going to start to work on these silos, which are very dark. I'm going to use some royal blue. And I'll be working with a combination of the two of these on this. I still want to have some bright quinacridone burnt orange coming through. So that's kind of a cooler mixture here, a little warmer there. But these are pretty dark shapes in here. And I'm going to paint them as such. I'm going to alternate. You can get a little of that warm color in there. It's very dark, so it's not as noticeable, but I have some of this burnt orange coming through. So very dark. I'm going to paint this one here, and there's a bit of a gap between these two here. So let's bring that across. I'm going to drag my brush a little bit here, take some moisture off just to get, I want to get a little more of a texture in there, but I think I'll just move on. So pretty dark, and it's like there's a light area here that's part of a little building or something. I'm going to carry this all the way down, this dark value. Work around this, work underneath this little cart or something that's there. So pretty dark value, and I'm going to go ahead and paint in here. It's kind of where you can go in the structure. There's another area here. then while I have these dark tones, I'm going to paint the underneath the where this rooftop hangs over. So we have that. A few darker areas in here. There's a little truck, like a camper top or something laying on the ground there. I'm going to leave that out. It doesn't really interest me. There's that. It's kind of like a gray or something in here. Alright, I'm going to bring kind of the front edge of this down. You can kind of see in between the two of these. It's probably dark or dry enough right now. I'm gonna work with this this middle one now. Pretty dark shape. Okay, now I want to dry this. Okay, this is all dry. So now I'm going to paint this this side of the barn, which I'm going to paint as if it's in shadow. And I'm going to take some ultramarine blue, maybe some cobalt blue. And I'm going to paint this more with take a little red, kind of a violet tone, grayed down. And I'm going to paint this with a middle value, just kind of a neutral. I got a little warm color going in that too. So now I painted that neutral, and I'm going to take some of that color and I'm going to paint this, but I want it to be a little lighter because I want it to feel like there's some some light reaching this. I'm actually going to leave maybe some white of the paper just so we can kind of get a sense that there's some light coming in here. And then now I'm going to paint the rooftop. And I want this to have, some color in it. And it's kind of a middle value, but I want enough there that it picks up some light. Just to suggest that there's some there's some light that light source is getting that. But it is it's a rusty rooftop there. So it's kind of dark on its own. A little red. There we have that. Now I want to continue that here. On this. So I'm going to give the suggestion here that this is getting some light. You can see that it's hitting that. So keep some of that pretty light, and I'll bring it down here, and then I'm going to paint more of a hard-edged shadow on that. That's kind of being cast on it by the tree. And in between here, I need to show some of that roof tone because you're seeing in between the silos. And I'm going to take some of this cooler mixture and follow it down here so that it's like I'm seeing through this to the side of that building. And I also want to tone this down because it's not going to be that bright. More shadow. All right. Get that there. So I'm going to dry this. I'm going to paint some kind of hard-edged shadows on there. All right. So this is all dry, and I'm going to take a little of my sap green, a little red, and use a little larger brush. I want to extend some of this foliage up a bit. And create a little bit more texture. Just a little bit, not too much. And a little here. And then I like to have a little bit more in here, tone that out. So we have that. Now, I want to get some, just some branches in there. So I'm going to go back to my royal blue and burnt orange, which I've been using. And I'm going to take my liner brush so I'm going to take my liner brush here and put in some of these tree trunks. There's a collection. Not sure if this is a birch or something here. Kind of looks like it might be. Have just a little indication of those. can. I'll put a few in here. I don't really need a lot. I think the shape holds up on its own. Okay, now I'm just going to use some of this that I have here, and I'm going to describe just a few little marks to show some of the boards and just give an indication of the direction of this and some of the panels on here, but I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to do too much. Just a little bit. I want to bring that down. Show this edge, a little roof line there. So not a lot. And then perhaps I'll add just a few marks in that roof. I probably would be fine without them, but we'll just add just a couple. Very subtle. I showed a little bit of this silo coming through here. And now I'm going to take some more of the royal blue, a little bit of the quinacridone burnt orange, get a dark value. In a few of these areas, I'm just going to make just a bit darker mark. And I need to paint my shadow. So a little bit more contrast in a few of these areas. Go a little darker with a couple branches. Okay, and now I want to paint that shadow in. So right here, I have the shadow. I'm not sure. I think I like that a little lighter. It gives a nice edge. And maybe make a little darker edge there. Let some of that wash out. I think I'll probably stay with that. I'm not going to go too dark with that because I kind of like being able to see the edge of that a little better. Lighter, and carries that feeling of the darkness. All right. So let me give this a dry. All right, this is all dry. I'm gonna put a mat around this so we can take a look at it. Okay, And there you have it. It's a very simple farm scene, little rural farm scene. Just some big washes and shapes here. Large sky area, but not too involved. Just simple backdrop. And then you have this arrangement of the building, the silos, and the trees that's in front of that. Kept this very simple up front, really the only pure white of the paper I have. There's little touches of white that are kind of sparkling through here and in through here. So this kind of draws you in here, and hopefully this gives you this feeling of this big sky, kind of big open space, these trees that we're seeing just the tops of in the distance. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching.